Can I see your license and registration? Did you graduate from Uber Academy?
Monica, are you okay?
No! I've been trying to tell you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the EDM Gaming Podcast. I'm Element, Darkovika and Mercenary is with me as always. What's up, guys?
Hi, Darkovika here. I'm extremely happy to be back, of course.
And I am always ultra ecstatic to be here on the microphone. I've been told I have a voice for radio.
Excellent.
You have the
Welcome
voice for
back,
radio
guys.
and not the microphone for it, however.
Yep.
So this week's episode is called Armchair. We'll be having an armchair discussion.
In honor probably of my stupid question.
I was under the influence. No, not under the influence. I was assuming that you guys had some sort of idea of roundtables, armchair discussions, and those types of kind of like brainstorming tools that are present in today's world.
I'd just say let's have a discussion. I've never used let's have an armchair discussion.
I just never heard that before.
And talk about it. So
I suppose it's more of like a buzzword type of kind of workplace tool.
You tend to speak in buzzwords, so I'd probably imagine so.
Yeah, I believe it.
Well, so anyway, this episode is about design.
Buzzword.
It's about general game design, and the purpose of having an armchair discussion is to let people inside on the process or the thought process behind designing certain things.
Game devs.
Yeah. So I have 4 scenarios laid out for you guys to kind of dig deep on and see where things go from there in terms of how you guys choose to design.
Excellent. I'm in.
I didn't bring a shovel though.
Oh, yes. Must
Buzzing.
always come prepared with a shovel.
There's always going to be a point in every episode
Tom Nook probably sells one somewhere.
where I figuratively walk out.
We figured. We need a soundboard with
A
Door
door
slamming, some footsteps.
Yep.
Do you have something you want to announce, Darkovika?
I do. Some of my viewers are already relatively aware that this has happened, but I have to announce that I have officially received my very first programming job. I am now known as a software engineer for a company, officially. And this is a step in the door, and I'm really excited.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Thank you. Yay!
Crowd cheering in post. I'm going to put all that in there.
Yay.
So congratulations.
So that was really cool. It was really actually awesome because when I walked into class this morning, I had the extreme pleasure of Brandon announcing it, and all of the programming students in Brent's class basically getting really excited for me and just being really awesome people. So
Oh,
that
cute.
was really... Oh,
Somebody-
I know, it was super cute. I was so happy.
Somebody else announced it for you?
Well, I walked in and I was like, hi, everybody. I wasn't going to say anything just because it was like midterms and I wasn't going to point out, hey, guys, I have a programming job. Yeah. I wasn't going to be really awkward.
Well,
So I
obviously.
actually decided I wasn't going to announce it. And then Brandon was like, so, guys, we got to give Monica a huge round of applause. And I thought that was really sweet of him. It made me smile really big. So
It made you ink.
and everyone was so warm and excited for me. So that was really sweet.
Oh, I guess you didn't hear him. He said it made you ink, right?
Because I'm a squid. I picked up on it the second time. I didn't hear it the first time.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
I'm
So
surprised.
I
Kevin
love
was
the
caught
programming
on
community.
with
To the squid
whole-
thing?
Yeah.
Why is that
Or
surprising?
squid-tastic.
Because it's an inside joke.
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't understand. All he knows is that Monica is a squid, and that's all he needs.
Well, to be completely honest with you, I just was using word reference because you said it made me, and it reminded me of Finding Nemo when it said you made me ink. I didn't, even though they called you a squid.
There we go.
So
So
there's that
accidental
part.
stumble into inside jokes. Have we explained the squid thing on the podcast?
I don't think we have. Would you
I
like
don't
to?
think we
Would you
have
like me
either.
to?
You can lead the story. Go for it.
Okay, so we were in level design class, and Kevin, you know Ian, right?
Yeah.
We, even though he's an environment artist, he's also a pretty gnarly designer too, and we often have our own, I will say, smoke session discussions. Back when he was still in school, and I was still all up in
So
that
it's like
cancer
armchair
stick.
discussions, except instead of sitting in an armchair, you're sitting on a cigarette.
Not necessarily sitting on one, but we would we would normally butt heads figuratively over level
Using
design.
cigarette butts.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
We would
Go ahead.
exchange, or we would have an exchange based on like level design ideas, because he was the lead of that team, and I was the design lead. So every time that I had an idea, or every time he had an idea, we would always have this back and forth. And it went to the point where we asked Monica, I don't know if it was either me or Ian, but we asked Monica to kind of interject, and every time we started to argue, try to break it up and kind of refocus at the task at hand. And so
Everyone's attention.
yeah, so every time we started, she would just jump in the middle with some kind of like karate pose and go squid.
Oh yeah, you told me that story before. You told me back then in level design.
Yep.
Oh, so now
Oh, so you have it. So you were in on the squid joke. Well, now everybody else is
Yeah,
too.
I'm
So.
quite actually caught up, which is now
Darko
kind
squid.
of like in your guys' faces for thinking that I don't know what's going on when I do. So there you go.
Well, now the audience is aware of the squid joke. But yeah,
Yay,
so
audience.
I just kind of like jump in between them and say squid, and then at one point, I think the last one, because they kept trying to keep arguing, I like wiggled my fingers in their faces while going squid.
Jeez, Monica.
and then I turned into
It
squid
worked.
fingers. Squid fingers.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think so. Squid fingers.
That doesn't even sound remotely attractive.
No, it doesn't.
Nope,
Sounds like some
not at
kind of crazy, weird, psycho Japanese thingamajig.
What have you been doing, Kevin?
Well, as far as announcements go, I want to say that some people have actually added me on the Nexus forum, so clap for people who are listening, and if you're listening again and you added me, cool for you guys.
Awesome.
Kind of cool to see that, yeah, it's kind of cool. Finally got some Twitter followers, so people are adding me every so often. It's kind of cool to see that too.
Yeah.
I've recently bought, except for the third one, of course, but the entire Witcher series and all its DLC, so I'm starting my monthly playthrough, and I'm starting off with playing The Witcher 1 Enhanced Edition. So, yeah,
Nice.
That's pretty much what I'm up to. Yeah, that and
I
some,
might do that.
you know,
Did you
scripting
check and
languages
see if
and
the
stuff.
how the company feels about it? Or wait, no, you're not doing it for YouTube, are you?
No, I'm doing it for
I just
myself. Purely
automatically
for
assume.
no, it's just for design purposes. Like I'm just seeing how another RPG plays out and what they do and how they go about it. So that kind of thing. Yeah.
Pay attention to the combat, because literally going
So
from
important.
Witcher 1 to Witcher 2 is like day and night.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
I do remember that.
I'd say that's like Mass Effect 1 and going to Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay.
It's like, all right, I think I got the hang of this. And what's going on?
Okay, so basically, like when I played Witcher 2, I liked that combat better than the first one. The first one felt kind of janky to me. I don't know if you started playing it.
Janky.
No, I haven't started playing it yet. I'm still finishing up Two Worlds 2. So Two Worlds 2. Yeah, Two Worlds 2. Jeez, it's a
Jeez,
title.
that's
Yeah.
a mouthful.
That is an interesting title. Yeah, Two Worlds
Yeah,
2.
Yeah, it's the second of two worlds.
This is
and
an
I'm like,
interesting
okay.
design choice right there.
I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was a bad choice.
Imagine
Yeah,
the third.
yeah, that's what I mean.
The third one is like the third one.
Two
Subtext.
worlds, 3.
It's two worlds. No,
2, 3.
two worlds,
Two worlds, 2.
3, 2, 4.
Wait,
No, no.
Oh, man.
so the first game is Two Worlds 2, and then the
No.
second game is like, oh, okay,
The
wait, no,
first-
so the first game is Two Worlds, and then the second game
Yeah.
is Two Worlds 2, so that means the
Exactly.
third game's got to be like Two Worlds 3, but
Yeah,
that sounds a lot better than Two Worlds 2.
I think Two Worlds 2 is just they didn't think about it too hard. They couldn't have
No,
unless
it's
it's
like
as a
Two
running
Worlds
joke
the
or
sequel.
something. Yeah,
But then-
it just
There's a DLC for Two Worlds 3 called For Justice.
Oh, so Two Worlds 3 for
you're
Justice.
dumb.
Two Worlds 3, 4.
For justice, get out of
Two
here.
Worlds 3, 4, 7, 9, 11, 2.
Numbers.
11D?
11, That's 112. Come on, get up with the times, bruh.
11D2.
11,
Darkovika, ladies and
Bruh.
gentlemen.
Jesus.
You guys never watched Fairly Odd Parents, did
Is a
you?
religious figure.
I actually did. Did very much so.
Watch
I
what?
swear 11 was a thing that was like on the Fairly Odd Parents in an episode once where they were like, 2 + 2 = fish. And then like,
That's
someone,
Harvard actually.
yeah, someone made like a wish that they were always right. And so at one point Timmy goes, 2 + 2 = 5? And then like a guy in a wheelchair comes in and is like, actually, 2 + 2 does = 5. And everyone was like, what?
I remember that episode because AJ's head like exploded.
Yeah, there you go.
That reminds me of a Celebrity Jeopardy skit where one of the contestants wagered Threve.
Threve.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was just what I heard. I heard Threve.
The mix between 3 and 5.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, okay.
So like 11.
Yeah. And
No.
and tangent.
Right. So.
So in terms of announcements, my game finally entered alpha.
Ooh. That is exciting.
Congrats, man.
I don't think we've talked about Left Alive on the podcast before, at least not fully. We haven't announced it.
No, I mean, I guess I've been kind of just saving
Avoiding
it for when it was actually in beta, because a lot of times companies announce too early, and in my opinion,
I
that's
see.
way too early. Like pre-alpha is way too early because you fall into this trap where you kind of have to explain away brokenness. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like the trend in today's game industry is to announce just for the sake of like hype.
Announcing and
And-
hype and
Yeah, and then all of these people have to like do disclaimers for not representative of final product, or this is a pre-alpha code, or they have to say running on actual hardware, and it's just like, dude, just
Yeah.
make it so that it's at
just
least
make
the
your
beta.
game, bruh.
Because if it's at
Just
least the
make
beta,
your game.
yeah, if it's at least the beta, then you have something to test. But if it's like a pre-alpha and you're just showing it for the sake of showing it, it's just bad.
That's
I
like
think
the
it's
game
broken.
Folktale on Steam. That's been on early access for like 3 years now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that thing's never leaving early access.
That's like Warframe, though. It's been in beta for, I want to say 2 years or so, and I question why it's still in beta when the game, it's very complex. Like, I'm like, how is this still a beta? Not that I'm complaining that I'm not paying a dime for the game, but just curious when the actual game hits its, like, its gold state, where it's actually a game and not a beta. So,
Yeah.
That's completely up to the developers, I guess.
Yeah,
Trending.
once they feel the game is complete. But yeah,
Hashtag
so
beta.
I guess technically we could just say that you're working on a game and it's reached alpha.
Yeah, I got enemies, or not enemies, but the enemy working.
Enemy.
He's not going through walls anymore. He respects the doors.
He respects the doors.
Yeah, and the next thing.
Thank goodness for that.
The next thing that I plan to work on with him is to give him sight, so that he can patrol and hopefully leave you alone when you escape him.
Leave his line of sight.
Yeah.
You should make a
That's
timer
why you're
for
watching
that.
videos of enemy cones.
Yeah, I would make a timer for that though, so it isn't like immediately once you leave his line of sight. Like if you leave his line of sight for like 5 seconds, then he loses interest, or maybe 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm playing with.
Or a search mode. We'll need a search mode. Once you leave the line of sight, he goes to wherever you last were. So we store the location of the last spot that your character was in within line of sight, and then have him go to that, and then search the area.
That's exactly what I have planned.
Perfect.
It's going to store the player's last location based on his raycast and the cone of vision, and he's going to patrol it instead of kind of just like, oh, he's gone, and go away.
There you go. Perfect.
Wicked cool.
So there's that, yeah. And then I'm going to record my intro narrative and my outro narrative, and just kind of start making it into a cohesive product at
game.
This point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very nice.
rock it.
So I guess with that said, we can move on to the next segment because we're kind of pressed for time. We got started a little late. Sorry, guys. We'll give you guys more of us next time.
Yes. It was my fault, by the way.
It's no one's fault. It's Pocket's. Anyway, so
It's her pocket's fault.
it's my pocket's fault. We blame my pockets.
So what we're going to do, first I forgot. Okay, segue. I forgot.
Right. So.
Segue.
Yes.
What we're gonna do is I'm going to present you guys with some more or less scenarios, but I guess you can also call them game jam ideas. And I want you guys to go ahead, and I'll jump in whenever I deem it's necessary. I want you guys to brainstorm and kind of go back and forth with design ideas based on these scenarios and concepts. So, are you guys ready?
I dig it.
Fun.
Let's go.
Okay,
Rock and roll.
The first concept is a tower defense game underwater. How do you design the towers, and how do you design the enemies? Go for it.
Tower defense underwater.
I say go for it.
Oh.
You go first.
All right. My initial thought is Atlantis. I would go to Marvel.
I went there too.
Yeah, it was like Atlantis has to be the idea. It would be that based anyway. I figure you wouldn't. I mean, because if you're avoiding using Marvel characters because you don't use Aquaman, but clearly. I would even make it really cartoonish, actually, just because you play things like Castle Crashers and all that have that stylistic, features to it.
Yeah.
I would probably do SpongeBob status, really goofy characters with some, I don't know, just really, just really silly.
I'm sure there's a SpongeBob tower defense somewhere.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't. There's SpongeBob basketball last time I checked, so there's no telling.
So you're talking about the Atlantis theme, but done with SpongeBob, so kind of like sandcastles almost.
Yeah.
So the goofiness of SpongeBob and then Atlantis. So SpongeBob's Atlantis, because there is an Atlantis in the SpongeBob universe.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to. Yes, it would be defending, SpongeBob. I actually haven't played a lot of tower defense games, so I actually don't. Let's say I've been familiar with all the mechanics, so I'm going to kind of try to freeball to see if I can kind of get it decently in the same ballpark here. But as far as describing the enemies, actually, why don't you guys briefly, summarize how normal average gameplay for tower defense goes exactly?
All right.
For tower defense, excuse me.
what I can do for that is give you what I thought of, and then kind of spitball with that, and then you'll get the idea for tower defense.
No, I work with that. All right, cool.
All right, so I was thinking you'd play like moray eel people instead of mermaids. You're like moray eel people, so you're like mer eels,
Okay, that's like.
eel maids.
Let me get this straight. Moray eel people.
Uh-huh.
Are
Yeah.
they led by, like,
Because
Murray
that was
from the show,
unclear.
or-
That was very unclear. I couldn't
Moray
understand from your
Yeah.
initial
I heard
description.
I was like,
Moray
that was my
eel
uncle.
people.
Okay, so
No.
moray
Okay.
people.
Moray mermaids. So
Murreals? Is that what you gotta
Mermaids.
say? Like Murreals?
moray eels? I don't know. It's spelled Moray.
Yeah, I know what moray eels. I was just making a joke about how many times you had said it in one sentence.
In one sentence. Oh, okay. I got it. I picked up on it now. And you
Hooray.
are battling. You are the moray eel people, and you are trying to protect your kingdom from mermaids.
Okay.
These like pretty creatures that turn out to be like completely psychotic, and they are trying to get to your villages. So like each level is you protecting bigger and bigger villages. Like it's on the outskirts of your kingdom, but they're like slowly making their way to your major city. And like they look really pretty. Like the idea is that you're these moray eel people. Like the moray. Okay, what I got in mind. I'm looking for my comic book right now. Anyways, it was from the Little Mermaid universe. There was this one point where Ariel goes into like this really dangerous area against her father's wishes, and then meets these like green people who are like mermaids, but they have eel tails instead of like mermaid tails. So it's like a similar concept. So like the mermaids look like Ariel and her people, except like they're psychotic. So like as they get closer, their like mouths open up and they turn into like creepy deep sea fish type creatures. And like
Yikes.
yeah, and so like your towers like there's a lot of electricity involved because it's moray eels and electricity kind of go together, even though most of them, some of them don't even have that.
That would be catastrophic in water.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I was thinking, but I'm assuming.
Exactly. So it's just sort of stereotypes, things that you kind of put two and two together, even though I don't know where that even came from. I guess it's the stinging of eels. It feels like electric shock, so that must be where that came from. Anyways, I'm overanalyzing that. Towers are like weird green spire structures, so there's like a tower that shoots a sort of area of effect type thing for faster mer people on the backs of seahorses that are like half dead. And but maybe like a stun tower area effect. So like you stun some tanky mer people, so that they move a little slower towards your base. So the idea is you set these towers down, and the more creatures you kill, the more, I guess, money or spending points you get, and then you can buy more towers or upgrade towers that you already have put down. And there's like a certain threshold that you have to not meet in order to beat the level by the end of the level of people getting into your base. Like say there's like a number 50 over your base. If 50 more people make it into your base, you automatically lose. Your city is lost.
Right. Okay.
So let me go ahead and clarify the base mechanics of a tower defense. She's hitting on some very important points. But just for your sake, Mercenary, the whole goal of the tower defense is not necessarily the tower defense. Is it has to do with the types of towers you have to defend a certain objective that's within your base or that you're just protecting, and you have to deal with multiple types of assault. So you have you have fast enemies, you have very tanky enemies, you have enemies that resist a certain type of element, and then you have enemies that overwhelm, or not overwhelm. They come at you at a different in a different way. So, for example, if this was a ground-based tower defense, you would have flyers instead of ground units. So you would have to think about your tower design in terms of those aspects. So, like Darkovika was saying, you would have an area of effect tower for really fast groups of enemies, and then you would have a tower for somebody who moves slow but has really like high mitigation.
Like tanks, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, if that's the case, which I kind of figured by the idea of tower defense was something close to like the Battlefield of Earth games, kind of. But if I really had to design for an underwater tower defense, I'd probably steal the. I don't know if you guys ever played Battlefield Bad Company 2 or Battlefield 3 or 4. But the game type Rush is basically there's a team defending, there's a team attacking, and they go, the basic team attacking tries to blow up the 2 MCOM stations with some C4, and they move on throughout the entire map until they blow up all MCOM points. I would take that and kind of build that into tower defense, which would be, as defending, as the people who are defending your towers, you lose once they go through your entire, I would actually say castle. Like it'd be like, because the castles are typically like fortresses, they've got the outer layers, the mid rings, or if you see like Attack on Titans, how their cities have the different parts they defend, going backwards as like the enemy encroaches in. So I would do it that way. So when you start, you have access to your entire city, but not enough resources to, let's say, defend each part. So you have to, you're trying to strategize your resources to defend the front part, or do you want to sacrifice the front part to maybe defend a better position for your strategy? And of course, the different enemy types, I'd say for the ones coming at you, since you're underwater, obviously flying is just simply swimming at a higher elevation, so that's not really difficult. But I would probably add in like those who can, dig through the soil, because you got some crustaceans and stuff that go underneath the water bed, and they'll pop up, on the other side of your wall and come up. So you've got to have units prepared to deal with that. So I'd say, honestly, for underwater, I mean, the speed difference is obviously because you'd have, if they're a fish base, you have the ones who are pretty quick swimmers, those are slower swimmers, but, move a lot of mass, so they can easily just push their body into your wall or something like that. But like I said, for the most unique one, it'd be the ones who tunnel underground. And of course, you would leave some kind of indication that you've got underground units coming, but design-wise. But that's probably how I would go about it, honestly. As far as thematic-wise, I'd probably make it close to like an Atlantean war. I kind of would dig that using... like the magical items and stuff. It wouldn't just be Atlanteans, but it would use that kind of architecture, the whole Poseidon look. You are. I'd probably even give you the right to name your own race of people. They're fish, like evolved humans who can survive underwater. And with humans, conquering new territories, there's going to be wars. So I mean, you can even put a story behind it if you want to. We screwed up land, so eventually we evolved to go underwater. Hey, and now we're trying to conquer the sea. So there's ways you can go about that. But, yeah, hey, so it's actually not too. It's kind of fun. I kind of wish that was a real game. I'd play that, but
right?
That's actually a really good angle to come from. Like if we were to invade like a underwater kingdom, then we would have to obey the rules of our kind instead of the aquatic life. So we would have people that kind of stick to a certain path, because the whole kingdom would be winding and stuff, so there would be paths towards the goal that you have to defend. But then units that veer off, like flyers for example, they would be those that kind of don't stick to the path, and you would have to have long range
swimmers
towers. You'd have to have long range towers to kind of cover the paths that they don't follow. So if they cut through the entire path, then you would have to have a long range tower that can work against the units that follow the path, but also shoot at the people that the other towers don't have the range for. Because one of the mechanics in tower defense is each tower has a set range as to where they can hit. So that will also come into play in there.
for
Nice.
because you're mentioning the flyer. I think an interesting one, like if we did go the angle of as land people were invading an underwater territory, they've got towers that basically go from, in their idea, from from water to air. And like, let's say if we have someone who's like, let's say a boat, the boat wouldn't be on the seabed, but if we've got a boat bombing from above, you would see the shadow of that unit moving, so it's time to use a ground, a surface to air type of tower kind of thing. But that's just one way of looking at it. But
like a tower that would that would set off a depth charge prematurely before it reaches the surface or something.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
Interesting. Anything else to add?
I like it.
No, that was pretty. That's pretty much like the encompass of it. I mean, for me too, when I start designing, I have to write more down and see what I've already been through before I
Sounds
start
like a pretty
repeating
full
myself. But yeah.
What about you, Darkovika?
I think I got the point across with mine.
Okay, so
I'm very minimalist. Oh yeah, towards mercenaries. I think his is pretty interesting. I'd definitely play it.
okay, so
Oh, thank you.
the gist of yours is moray eel people.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you gotta know.
Well,
all
I
you
mean,
need from mine.
going on to the next scenario, I'm more or less want to focus on the design process versus what the game would actually be. So,
Okay.
Talking about the mechanics and the systems involved in the game. So the next
That's pretty much
idea-
what I do, but
So the next idea that I'm presenting to you is something that you're kind of familiar with, Darkovika, in that I laid out a concept for you where you play as like it's a damsel in distress game, except you play as the damsel, and you are in like the prison, and you have to work the prison politics to kind of gain favor with people, and that would affect how you escape.
right.
All of this happening as the other person who you would normally play is coming to rescue you, but at the end you end up saving him because he couldn't rescue you. So to
Right.
that
So the
to that
So
effect,
the movie Tangled.
basically, I mean, to that effect, this next idea is I'm gonna limit it to the shooter genre, but I want your
Okay.
design process to follow designing for a different perspective.
So the way I picture this one, oddly enough, is very much the escapists. Like, I see like a timer type thing, a countdown to the prince coming, or whatever, and you've got that long to escape on your own. Otherwise, you're just another damsel in distress, and it's very much like non-linear. Like, you are in this prison and you are collecting items and hiding them from prison guards to try and like build up a way to get out, or build up a way to bribe, or build a community within the jail so that it's like a breakout type situation, so then you have like an army or whatever.
Well,
That's what I was kind of picturing.
That was just an the example that I was putting forth to give you an idea of what I was talking about. But for this one, I want your design process on a shooter game and how you go about designing for a different perspective.
Oh, I see what you mean. All right. Mercenary, do you want to go first, or?
I was gonna ask, when you say different perspective, do you mean not playing
Like a
as
twist.
the
What a
focal
twist.
character?
Yeah, basically in a shooter game, you're playing the protagonist that goes through this linear progression towards the ultimate evil, and I want a different perspective. How do you design for that?
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I understand, because I don't want to start and then it'd be completely off. So as the protagonist, I am basically, my end goal is the ultimate evil. Is that what you're meaning?
I'm saying
No, just something
from that.
different.
Just something.
So
Okay,
like
I see
something
what you mean.
unexpected. So like if you're playing the damsel, but the damsel saves herself. So he wants that same type of concept, but like with a shooter.
With a shooter. Okay. because the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to not playing the typical role is Oblivion, where you believe that you're the main character, but ends up being Martin Septim, who you save, which is what I instantly thought of when you think of, like, different perspectives character-wise. Even though you are kind of the focal point, but you're kind of not, because you don't end up saving the world. But if you do it for a first-person shooter, I would like to build. Have you guys ever played Syndicate before, by any chance?
No.
Nope.
Cyberpunk? Okay, no. Well, anyway, it's not necessarily like this, but it's where I kind of got the idea when I was playing through it. But to play a game starting out doing the typical protagonist storyline where, you know, the town or the city turns on you, you know, like they habitually do if you're a certain type of anti-hero or something, like they see you as an anti-hero or whatnot, and you believe yourself to be playing, as the player, you believe you're playing the character who is the protagonist, who the crowd to just turn on. But in the end, you realize what people are telling you in the game are actually true, and you are indeed the villain who ends up killing the protagonist at the end. Design-wise, I mean, it's a first-person shooter. It'd be more writing the story than it would be designing the mechanics. You had to tell a story, like I said, to get the players to believe that they're doing the right thing. But it would be kind of showing how someone maybe from the German army during like World War II, fighting for their home country, believing what they're doing is right, but you know, from our perspective, they were like
completely wrong. Yeah.
You know, exactly. So it would be something like that. So I mean, you could even do a World War II scenario where you're playing a German soldier, which I would probably never do that, because writing that would be
a good way to do that would be to hide the fact that you're a German soldier for as long as you can. So like everything is in English as though it were an English thing.
Exactly.
And then as you progress in the game, it slowly starts going into German, and you realize like it's German, and slowly you start noticing there's like Nazi propaganda everywhere, and you're actually a Nazi. Which would be risky, but it'd be like a BioShock Infinite type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're designing for the perspective.
Basically.
You're designing for the perspective of actually coming from a villain?
Yeah, basically. So, because they say, you know, the most dangerous people are those who believe in what they're fighting for. And typically the best villains are those who think they're doing good, but you know, have a negative going way about it. And we see most villains as that type of person, like, oh, they believe what they're saying is true and it seems right, but they're evil. But this one is meant to really be that you honestly believe, like, and it looks
and
like it is
the longest
good.
time you think you are. Yeah
Until you kill the protagonist, which is at the absolute end, and you realize everything you've done, you pretty much are the catalyst for the dangers of that world.
Wouldn't that be interesting if you played a game where you were Adolf Hitler, but like people were calling you another name? I mean, that'd be risky as hell. Like, so risky. And in the end, you realize you're a monster and you've done horrible things, and that's why you kill yourself.
Yeah,
that game would not sell in Germany.
You go through the game playing as Adolf Hitler.
Wouldn't sell anywhere if we're being really honest.
You say Adolf Hitler?
What? Adolf Hitler?
No, you played the game.
Adolf Hitler?
You play the game as Adolfu Hitler.
Adolfu Hitler.
And then at the end, you would, you know, figure out that you were actually Adolf.
Well, like I said, the World War II was just an example to kind of give you what I was meaning by, you know, but because you hear that a lot of times, like when you watch those war movies that dive into
none of us are Nazis. Because that got a little weird. Yeah.
Like, that would just be weird. Like, I feel like that would just be a contradiction in itself. But yeah, I guess for me, like, doing a first-person shooter where you design it for a different perspective, it would be pretty much, for me, it would be approached completely story-driven, you know, and I wouldn't. It would be really trying to make it seem as if you are just a protagonist and you're doing that stereotypical superhero storyline where they think of you as as a vigilante at best, and they kind of come after you a little bit, but there's those who believe in you, and then everyone tends to like you at some point, and everyone hates you because something turns, but then, you know, usually at the end of that story, everyone likes you again. But this one, when it turns, it just keeps going down, and then once you think it's going to get better, it hits its absolute worst point, and you end up killing the protagonist or the main positive factor of that world.
Interesting. So
and then you realize that you were a monster.
How do you design for the ending?
Honestly, I would probably weirdly written. I would probably weird workflows. I would probably start from the end and reverse engineer the ending per se. Like starting with, okay, well, who is in this story? I would probably write it for the protagonist, like from his view, what he's doing from day one and right up until his end. And then I would turn it on and be like, all right, so for every main event of this guy's life, the protagonist or that force, what would be the negative impact?
What the antagonist is doing.
That's where the game, that's what you're playing through, those points who drove him to make his decisions, but you're that, reverse negative force. So that's probably how I would probably approach that, given the opportunity.
Do you make him successful to make it a game about a different perspective but the same kind of linear progression, or do you make it where the villain ultimately fails so that it's kind of just like...
I'm all for those different types of endings. Like it would be I think everyone would be okay if the villain ultimately fails, but I feel like it would be, since the character or the player is probably going to be attached to his or her character, that's the way I like to write, is where you feel for the person you're playing as. I would have it to where the ending is not one of those black and white where I failed or I've fulfilled my accomplishment or whatnot. It would be like
sit there thinking like BioShock Infinite.
Well, I wouldn't say that much, but it would leave some degree of interpretation to where it's like, okay, well, I'm here. Do I deserve my reward for whatever went down, or do I deserve these consequences? And it's like, I believed in what I was fighting for, but do these means really, justify the end? That kind of thing. I believe I said that phrase backwards, but you get what I'm going with that. Kind of like anyone who chose not to destroy the Reapers in Mass Effect 3. It's like, after everything they did, is it really a good idea to leave them alive in any scenario? Kind of like that, like where whatever happens, whether it's choice driven or not choice driven, just does it feel just to you as a player after realizing that at the end you were what you were trying to destroy, in a sense.
I see. Yeah.
Interesting. It kind of makes me think about an old concept that I had about a robot that was created in a society where robots, have become an everyday like commodity, and they're all like maids or servants and stuff like that, and
a robot type thing.
Yeah, basically. And the robot becomes self-aware. He starts to grow his a conscience. He starts to think, and he builds this attachment to his owner, which is a little girl, the daughter of two scientists that worked at the company that made the robot. And foregoing all of the story elements, the owner of the company finds out, because he's been trying to make self-aware and conscious robots for a while. So the little girl, she was the catalyst in bringing about his evolution. So the owner finds out about the robot, and the robot goes on to he's literally chasing the robot down, and you go through the game obviously running from all of these elements trying to chase you, but at the end, you as the player, as the robot, you finally confront the owner, and you find out that the owner has been kind of like surgically grafting robotic parts to his body, and he's become sort of this like 80% robot, 20% human. And
that always ends well.
Yeah, and so basically, the God complex comes into play, but when at the ending that I was designing was basically a choice, just like you had mentioned earlier with this sort of concept, is that you would have him in your hand with one hand, and you would have the other kind of wound back and ready to kind of punch his shit in and end his life. And he asks you to spare his life. And then you have two choices, yes or no. The player chooses either one, and the screen blanks out, and then the credits roll. You don't know what happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like this, like you chose to kill him, you chose not to kill him, you don't know what happens, you draw your own conclusion as to if you want this taboo on artificial intelligence to become true. Do you want to be a killer, or do you not want to be a killer? And you will never know what happens going forward. And that was one of my old ideas. But so yeah.
But the question at the
That's
end.
pretty cool. I dig it.
Okay. Never mind.
It's in
What'd you
general.
Because Monica, I thought you had asked the question, and Monica said that was really cool, and I was like, wait, what? I just missed the last part. That was all.
Did the sound
Nothing.
cut out for me, and then I just thought you guys were done?
I derped for a quick moment. It's okay. You're fine. I completely just derped for like a split second when he finished, and I was like, what?
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
But no, like.
All right.
So to summarize,
I see. Yeah. Wait, what?
So is it my turn?
To summarize, Mercenaries thing, he would do a villain, and your ending would basically be the same thing, which is kind of leaving it open for interpretation.
Yeah. Basically.
Okay. Go for it, Darkovika.
Awesome. All right. So I think the best thing that I came up with, at least instantaneously, because this is all surprise, of course. I don't know if everybody knows this, but we haven't received these prompts. This is the first time we're hearing them. What I would do if I had to work with a first-person shooter and kind of twist things around, automatically I thought of gameplay, which also works into story. You're a shooter. You're a hired gun, a mercenary. You're not allowed to shoot in the game. Like, shooting is bad. In a first-person shooter, shooting is bad.
Okay.
So you are a first-person shooter. You have guns, like, from the get-go. You have guns. It is, like, very obvious. Call of Duty, straight up, you have guns. You are not supposed to use them. Using them gets you penalties in story and gameplay-wise.
Weapon wheel, everything is just guns.
Yeah, guns.
So what I'm getting from it, it's kind of like what you could story-wise throw on there would be you could even say
the civilian type situation.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
civilian
was
type
gonna be like,
situation where you're trying to help people, or you're going in, and the idea is you're trying actually not to shoot anybody, even though you're a hired gun, you're a mercenary. You're going in there and you're trying not to shoot anybody. Killing people means you're ending you're breaking up families, you're killing innocent people, basically it's like a highly moralistic game. You're basically trying not to kill people. Obviously these are people who are trying to attack you, they're trying to kill you, you're trying to incapacitate them.
If you ever play Dishonored or get the moment to play through that, it's kind of the same. I wouldn't say it's the same concept, but there is an aspect of that to it, as in you're a gifted assassin. You have these arcane powers, and it is in your character's ability. Yeah, in your character's ability to kill pretty much every person on your list. But in order to ensure the best hope for your world, it is best to not kill any of them. And I thought that was kind of reminded me of that when you were talking about it. Right there,
yeah,
so I can easily
that kind of concept.
Yeah.
So what would be the goal? Would you be able to kill you're an assassin, right? You're a hired gun. You would have
technically you would be able to kill you would be able to kill anyone. But as you kill more and more people, like, you start to lose humanity, and you start to the game gets darker, things get harder, there are more enemies in places that you go. Kind of, I guess, like, it's sort of like Bloodborne. The more insight you have, the more awful the enemies are. The less humanity you have, the more people are prepared for you to come. They're scared of you. They They're like, this person is armed. This person is coming to kill us. This person does not have any humanity or innocence. So we're going to obviously need to be better armed. The idea is like, and what I was thinking was, as you kill people, the game slowly loses color until the very end of the game. If you're in black and white, you're just, there's no color. There's nothing to the world. You don't see life. You just see death.
Nice.
Ooh.
The people are just targets. Even the models all have the same faces. Everyone is just the same person. You're just killing. You can't tell the difference.
Q,
I like that.
Q fry meme with "Take my money now."
Take
Not
my
gonna
money
lie.
now.
An assassin game where it's meant to like, I kind of feel like it's one of those where you could even, if you want to add more layers to it, it'd be building like a reputation of your character. Are you an assassin people can rely on to do it quietly and efficiently, or are you just going to go in there and just wreck everybody's crap and then walk away like nothing happened? Kind of thing.
And then in the end, you just become a cold-hearted killer. Like, say for instance, like you get, all right, you did the job, here's your money, and you're just like, yeah, I really don't care, and you just end up killing the guy who hired you. Just walk out of there like, I'm just here to kill. I don't even care anymore.
That's a pretty cool perspective.
Ship it. It's gold. I like it.
So you would kill your contract, right?
Giggity.
You
Well,
would-
if you had got far enough in that line, so it's like, I guess, innate choices. If you kill enough people and you have enough, I guess, infamy, then eventually it makes the automatic switch to that ending. There's no choices that you have to make. There's no like dialogue options. The choices are whether or not you wind up killing people. Very much like Dishonored. If you kill too many people, if you lose too much humanity, in the end you don't even get the reward. You don't even get the money. You just kill people.
I think what he's asking if like is the entire game one main contract, or do you have bits and
I suppose
like
it would be
say
working. I was thinking it's working for one person. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Because
Ask your question.
the way we're seeing is like you're an assassin and you have multiple contracts. You know, you finish one, you get the other, but at the end of each contract, because each contract, like when someone puts a hit on someone, they want that person like gone.
Dead.
Like they don't care how you do it, they want them freaking dead. You know, out of their lives. So we're saying like, is the purpose to kill the contract with as least amount of casualties in the end, or is it to try to neutralize the supposed threat without actually
killing them?
having to kill them?
Right. So what I was thinking, because obviously, like you're saying, the point of a contract is to kill a person if you're a mercenary. That's
Right.
that's what you do. You kill people. But I was thinking it would be all one job, and you're in basically enemy territory. No, everyone is hostile. No one is friend.
Okay.
And you're working for one guy. The whole game is trying to get to the hit. The whole game is getting to the contact. But as you're getting to that hit, that target, I mean, you are trying your absolute hardest not to kill these innocent people. And like every situation, you see these people with families. You see these people with lives. You see these people doing their daily thing before they're going into their job of trying to kill you. Do you get what I mean?
See. Yeah.
And then you get to the final hit, and your options are kill the hit, kill the kill the target. Maybe, hopefully, the only death in the whole thing, because you are hired to kill him, or walk away and don't accept the money.
What I'm seeing is like a kind of like a more a meta game that's happening where when you try to dispatch of somebody, you kind of get flashes or like visions of like their
life,
daily life, and
as you kill after you kill them, yeah.
Or not even kill them, as you're kind of like maybe in a chokehold and he's egging you on. He's like, you fucker, but you see that he has a wife and 2 kids, and he's like,
oh yeah, like as you're killing someone and then you look up and you see like a kid watching you.
Yeah, basically.
That would be heartrending.
And like the more you grow your conscience, the more you would see that before you enact your action.
And by not killing people, like say you're in a situation where someone is in like a prime moment to kill them, and instead you take them out. Later on, maybe you're in a bad situation, and all of a sudden the person who's trying to kill you, maybe they get knocked out, or maybe they get shot, who knows. And you turn around and it's the person you didn't kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like little things that it's like, just little things. Like, that person isn't exactly your ally, and then they just turn around, walk away, you never see them again. They're just repaying you a debt, a favor. You saved them, or you didn't kill them, so they're repaying you. Then you'll never see them again.
It
would just be interesting.
It harkens back to my damsel in distress idea, where you're playing those politics, and you come to this last door you need to escape, and there's that one guard that you fucking sneaked a donut to, and he's just like, don't kill me, I'm just gonna let you go. Instead of like having that confrontation, you could have built
for a donut
that rapport with him, and then his decision.
The price of freedom is a donut.
It would take
you
more
never
than
know.
that, but that was an example.
I know. It was really funny. The price of freedom is one donut.
Some guys really like their donuts.
Yeah, but that sounds good though. I mean, I like it already.
Thank you.
Ship of it, gold. I want it.
The next idea, I'm gonna have you guys choose between the two, because it is approaching that time of the day or the night. So, you can either do a horror game and designing the haunt, or an RPG and discuss skill design.
I want the horror game.
I'll take the RPG because she took the horror game, so we hit both of them.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. So I guess we can start with, let me do this eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe, horror games going first.
Yeah, alright.
He just likes your pockets.
Shut up!
Yes, running
Stop
jokes.
blowing up my spot, man.
Right, so I kind of want, there's so many ideas that I have for horror games. First and foremost is like Lovecraft. Lovecraft is absolutely everything that I do.
And focus on just the haunts.
The haunt. Okay. So by haunts, do you mean specifically paranormal, or do you mean just the thing that's the scary part of the game? The thing that is
whatever is haunting the player, whatever kind of
what's the scare?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So the hard part that we got here is horror is a very popular genre. So a lot of these things have already been touched on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if you are this player? You're going through. Well, you are a player, but
what if you used a controller?
What if you played the game? You are. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna go World of Darkness status. You're a vampire.
Okay.
You're a vampire. Your greatest fear is humans.
Okay.
The horror that you are trying to avoid is humanity, human being. You are trying to get by. You're trying to survive off of blood. You have to stay near these things, these creatures, these humans, in a city or a town. Not a town, because you'd get caught faster. You have to stay near these creatures, but at the same time, they're extremely dangerous. If someone sees you, you're dead. If someone catches you, you're dead. If someone's catching on to you, I mean, there's like psychos everywhere. Someone's bound to notice that you only come out at night. It's not for alcohol or whoring. And the idea is
that's
that
literally who go out at nighttime is alcohol and whoring.
Sorry. I'm in World of Darkness, but World of Darkness is not a happy place.
So are you a vampire that can hold his own, or a helpless kind of vampire?
It's not like, you have strength and you have speed, but everything comes with a price. Everything costs you not so much energy, but like your lifehood. Now, the idea behind the way I look at vampires is the reason they drink blood is because they cannot create their own. So they literally need it to survive. The less blood they have, the weaker they get. Right. The more blood they have, the stronger they are. So it's the only way they can stay alive. They can't create their own because they don't have a beating heart. So they must consume the blood of living creatures in order to make their body function. So they're very human-like.
I need to suck your blood.
Exactly, to survive, yeah. So they're very human-like when they have enough blood. When they have it's sort of a give or take. You have to figure out how much blood you're willing to consume. At half blood, you have less feeling in your limbs. You can take more hits. You can do more damage because your body isn't stressed. With more blood in you, you're sated. You're less likely to lose your sanity. You're less likely to be caught, but you're more human. So you take more hit. You can't take as many hits. You take more damage. You feel more pain. You're not as fast because you're more human. You're more alive.
That's
type of situation.
So how do you design a haunt based on humans? Because I know that's not a very scary. It's not a very scary.
Humans
aspect.
aren't typically very scary. It's, I guess you would be in a situation. So, like, say you're in a place, like you're in. I'm gonna pretend this is like Victorian era. You're at a ball or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe you're going through time periods. That's the idea, because you're a vampire. You're going through time periods, and as the time periods progress, things get harder. So you go into an area, and there are guards, or maybe there are priests in the area. That'd be terrifying. Walk in there, and you're like, oh God, holy water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and you're unholy. Like, obviously, we'd have to touch on that. I'm sorry, I'm spitballing. Let's see. Humans are scary because they travel in packs. You have to be careful in such a way to get them by themselves. But maybe this is a universe where everyone is armed to the teeth with like things to combat the supernatural. So everyone's got weapons or holy water or crosses, and so it harms your character, makes your character see things, makes your character lose blood, so they start losing sanity, so they start hallucinating. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the haunt would be more around supernatural aspect of humans, because humans can't exactly jump out and go boo. It'd very much be psychological, I suppose. It wouldn't be horror and like, oh God, a human.
Interesting.
Because I was gonna say, how do you scare the player with humans? Se, but
it's more of a metaphysical. Yeah, it's a metaphysical, not metaphysical. It's more of a psychological tension that I'm going for. I like games where I don't even notice that I've started to get freaked out. Like by the time I notice my shoulders are like up a notch, I'm like sitting there like, oh my God, I'm gonna get caught. I'm gonna die. Oh my God, what am I doing? And I pause the game and I'm just like, I'm freaking out over here. I didn't even notice this happening.
I would actually take the priest idea and run with it, and kind of assign a ghostly aura to them in a way where you're going, like, say you're at this this masquerade ball, and you're kind of just trying to, I guess, make it through the night without feeding on anybody, but there would be priests somewhere like, placed scattered among the crowd that would kind of,
and they're like,
they would kind of approach you like a ghost.
Ooh, here's something.
Like they would,
I just thought of something.
If you couldn't see them or something, not see them, but the way you would kind of just picture Slender Man, like if you're walking through the crowd and you're trying to survive, and a priest shows up.
At you.
They show up behind you with their crosses in their hand, and they're going like chanting, and it's like that kind of like haunt.
Because that's what priests do.
I mean, that's how they would look to you as a vampire.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, running off of that last sentence you just said, what if, as a vampire, what if you're in this world, and priests are priests, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
sometimes they're moray people.
No, sorry, I got distracted. My sister walked into the room. No, okay, so you're a vampire. What if in this universe priests are not actually what people believe they are? What if they are just as unholy as the vampires that they claim to hunt, or whatever?
Or you see them as like dementors or something?
Kind of, yeah. So like, you have your human, the way you see humans, and then you have the way you see things like priests, or things that are like supposed to be holy, and they're actually like, the way they actually are is very much monstrous.
Yeah.
You're not a good creature either, but the way you see them is interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like picture your as you lose blood, the more insane that you become.
Priests, yeah.
The priests start to kind of like deprecate and kind of become decrepit.
And that's why you would want to avoid losing too much blood, because as you do that, the priests begin to get more and more terrifying. So maybe they turn into like these weird white glowing horned creatures that like don't have a face or whatever. They're just, and the world is kind of like very much like if you're wearing the ring, you're Frodo on a Weathertop, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
The ring wraiths, the white ring wraiths.
Very nice.
That's what I was going.
like
I knew
that.
I was picturing something familiar. I was like, I'm thinking of something, the white creatures with the weird hazy blue background. I was like, the ring on Weathertop.
Yeah, flip things on its side and, go from a different, again, designing perspective, also designing a haunt in which,
You
a
always have to go for
vampire-
something that isn't already done.
Yeah. I like that. The vampire seeing a normal thing that would not be scary in a scary perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Rock and roll. So that's
Awesome.
mine.
I like it.
Just name
Ship
it.
Ship
it,
it.
sell it. It's gold. I want
Yeah,
it.
there we go.
Name it for naming sake.
Oh, name it for naming's sake? Weathertop.
What did you say?
No, I said Weathertop.
Oh,
No, oh shoot.
Through the looking glass?
Blind.
I feel like you're waiting to say that, Peter.
No, I literally just that popped into my head.
Goodness.
I feel like you wanted to say that. That's why you wanted her to name it.
No, I swear
Wait,
to
what?
God, I didn't.
I think I missed Peter's. What was that?
I
He
said
said-
through the looking glass.
Yeah.
Through the looking glass?
And I was like, I
It's too
feel like you're just
Wonderland, and
waiting.
there's not enough Wonderland in this to make it make sense. But I don't know. Blinding darkness seems kind of cool.
Ooh.
I do like paradoxes though. Blinding darkness, because again, as you lose sanity, as you go into darkness, everything around you gets dark, but like the creatures you're afraid of get brighter.
I actually like blinding light.
Yeah,
Now that you
works.
say that, because no, it's kind of like this I don't know if it's double entendre or no, that's not it. It's a oxymoron in which like you would be blinded by something that gives off light instead of dark. Because obviously, if you're swerving into darkness, you would lose your sight no matter
Well,
what.
no, because you can be blinded by light though. So
Well, I
that's
was
not
thinking
so
more
much
of
an oxymoron. That makes a bit more sense to me than blinding darkness, I guess.
Yeah, aren't you
I'm
totally blinded
thinking,
by
like-
bright lights and not darkness?
Yeah.
I was thinking metaphorically with the priests being like the light side instead of an actual light. You know what I mean?
I think
Right.
I understand. I was going for like literal, like blinding is the brightness, like something so bright it's blinding you, and then darkness, which is generally not bright.
Left in the dark.
Because
Yeah,
it's dark.
Left blind. Left blind.
Blinded by dark.
Left for blind. Left for blind.
Left for blind.
Yeah, there you go. Left for light.
Tangent.
There's bloodlust. You could call it bloodlust or something like that.
Lust
Last
for
light.
blood.
I don't know. Last rites, if you want to go that far.
Ooh, I like that last right.
Last right. Oh, that's interesting.
Like as in right,
Yeah.
as right R-I-T-E.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be like right as
Yeah.
in like left or right.
It's your last
Yeah, yeah.
right. Take that last right.
It's your last right. It's the last right, and then your destination's
Keep
on the
making
left.
left and hold on to your last right. No, but no, yeah. Stupid.
All right, cool. So,
Tangent.
Fabled Mercenary, the RPG skill design. What's up?
Skill design. All right, so I was sitting here and I was just like, I mean, to have to try to do something new, because whenever I dive into designing anything, I want to add something new to it, and that gets ever so difficult when you've got people like, Bethesda and the rest is BioWare, who's typically, when it comes to RPGs, the GURP system and the special systems for that kind of thing is kind of hard to innovate that. If anything, perk systems are always used so they can, or hell, Sims games even do skills. And I mean, you pretty much use the skill and it upgrades. It's pretty simple. I think for me, if I had to go in there, I would start with that, with what works, obviously. So I take the set skill, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna say steampunk, just to give a theme here. Steampunk. So we'll go steampunk, whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll do steampunk. That era, and I'm gonna do a stealth-driven game. We'll do that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we'll do it that way.
Okay, so you're doing a single-player RPG, or would it be multiple classes?
I'm going to dive into that, actually. That's kind of where I'm going to hit on and how this is going to work. Because when the Elder Scrolls games are class-based games, like everyone in their world has a class. Whether you're a farmer, adventurer, bard, guard, everyone has a class. And then Skyrim comes along, and they're like, well, this time we're not going to restrict you to a class. All skills are available, all skills level you up. I personally thought that was a step back because I like the skill-driven thing, but I kind of get where they were going. So I figured for this particular steampunk RPG stealth-based game we've got going on here is instead of, the way you level up being reflected in your playstyle is going to change the world. The skills you upgrade is going to change the world, and your enemies will reflect that. So let's say if I'm playing a thief, and I've taken the time to upgrade my sneak. I wear light armor. I use my bow. I've got trick arrows and trick gadgets. I typically neutralize targets and I don't kill them. So I get this contract to go steal something from a museum. We'll say I'm doing that. And so the world, like I said, I've been playing for a while. We'll say I got at least 150 hours into this game, and it's free roam or whatnot, but you have your side quest, your main quest, and all that fun stuff. Okay, so we're building it that way. I go through, and so my main top skills are sneak, archery, short blade, and we'll say traps. We'll use what a better word for traps would be, like we'll just say gadgetry, I guess, something like that. Something that involves gadgets basically, because steampunk, you've got a lot of cool knickknacks in there. So we'll say gadgetry, basically, and we'll go with those. So I've used these countless times to lockpick. Cut windows without shattering them, using some high-powered steam god. I don't know how everyone do it. I don't care, just for the sake of it. And both guards have no idea I'm there. I'm in and out before they know. I take my item that I need to steal, and I leave, right? The first playthrough is I do everything. I do the mission as stated, no deaths. Okay, so the guard picks up on how I operate. They know when it's me because they know by my traits. I normally enter through, let's say, a rooftop. And I normally go up to the top, and then I cut through glass, and I do that, and I leave without tripping alarms. So in this time, instead of relying solely on their location and their alarm systems to trap me, they up the number of patrols. They continue to add on more and more patrol people around high-priced items. So let's say next time I go to that same museum, instead of 4 guardsmen, like 2 out on the outside and 2 just walking around the museum with their flashlights, we've got like 4 on the outside, and then we've got 10 men on the inside, 5 on the bottom floor, 5 on the top floor. And now it's harder for me to sneak around. And of course, the number of guards and number of changes depend on my difficulty level, right? And so I think that'd be a good way to do it. Now, obviously that's from the sneaking point of view, but let's say I play a character where my skill set, I decided that I'm going to start using more gadgets, start using the front door, and I'll kill anyone who gets in my way. This time I go in there, and they're like, they feel like someone's new, because the story I have in my head is that you're the thief, obviously, and your antagonist, sort of protagonist character, is a detective who's trying to literally catch you because you're the top thief. You can even call it thief, like remake if you want to, I don't care, but that's what I'm going with at the moment, just for the sake of the skill sets here. And it doesn't really innovate the whole skill sets, but I think the world reacting to your skills would be better. Like in Skyrim, like they have dialogue where people will talk about, you like the guards. You walk past the guard, they'll tell you prefer the sword or you prefer the bow. Well, I like a strong sword. Or they'll say something like that to you, and you're like, I don't care.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But it's like it doesn't really do anything for you. It doesn't really matter. I think it would be cool to take that take it one step further where it does react, and it kind of reminds me like Assassin's Creed, where your character, you get access to new items based on what you use, and that'd be the same for this game. Like if I have a high level of gadgetry, then of course obviously I'm gonna have more complex gadgets, more efficient gadgets, and be able to better use them.
That's an intense pencil you got there.
As a laser beam too. I'm just kidding. But just for another example, it would be like, let's say I go in, like I said, I use the front door, I bash my way in, I shatter glass, I kill people, take what I need, and I leave, right? Create a lot of commotion. Well, this time, they up their guards, but the guards are armed, they're heavy-plated, and they're ready for a frontal assault. And I think that slows down the moment where you're like, I've done this so many times, I know my strategy is going to work each and every time. I think this allows for you to actually master your skills as a player, not just by value on your character. Because if I'm playing, like, if you ever play Morrowind, or even Skyrim sometimes, if your sneak is 100, your light arm's 100, you can pretty much walk right in front of somebody. They won't see you. I think it's just, that's what it, but you know what, it happens. Like, you will be like, or you'll literally will shoot someone square in the face with an arrow, and their friend next to them goes, must have been the wind. And it's like, there's an arrow in his forehead. It could be a rat or the wind.
You can shoot them in the shoulder, right? And if it doesn't, if it doesn't kill them, they'll go off like, "What was that?" And then, like, if you don't respond, they're just like, "Must have been the wind." And then he goes away, goes back to his post.
Inanimate object here.
He goes back to his post with an arrow in his shoulder.
It's you know what I mean? And I think ultimately what I'm going for here is a world that not only reacts to your skill sets, but reacts to like your play style. You know, if I happen to get into, let's say I'm doing it my stealth playthrough, but they've upped the guardsmen because I've never seen when I do my mission. So this time I actually get into a tussle with a couple of guards. So now they can actually identify me if I don't kill anyone. Like, in that game, I know Unity, I think they were trying to make it to where you didn't have to assassin or be the typical assassin, silent and deadly, blah, blah, blah. You could be a heavy by having the guns or like the huge axes. So, is that giggling? Or is that like, what's going on?
Nothing.
Well, you can't say
she's having,
nothing. I mean, I clearly heard
playing games with us all of a sudden now.
No, sorry. I knocked into something and it made me laugh. I was trying to hide it.
You can't hide it from us.
I was saying, like, I should have just heard you snicker, so I'm like, what did I say? Was it funny?
No, it wasn't you. It was all me.
This is
like, you can't snicker. Like, I'm gonna hear that. Like, you know.
I thought I was doing a good job.
No, I got tiger's blood.
Not tiger's blood. Yeah, I knocked into something and it made me laugh.
Yeah, I was just sitting here listening, and all I heard was.
Yeah, I was just like, what did I do?
Nothing. It was just me.
So I think he forgot what he was talking about. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it was roughly the point being, you know, the skills themselves obviously depend on the game. You know, if I'm playing Sims, you're gonna have arbitrary skills like cooking and stuff. If I'm playing Elder Scrolls game, it's gonna be the different fighting types. Same with the steampunk, you know, thief game or stealth game. It's gonna be, you know, based on that. You'll be skill building based on what you use. You know, if you use it the most. And I think I prefer Fallout's way of doing it, where each level up, you get to divvy out the points to which skill you want to put it on. I prefer that over having to work or grind a skill out personally, so I'd probably stick with that tip. That's the one I like to use. But it would be, like I said, back to like last podcast, where it's like, I like the feeling of I actually mastered something and the game didn't simulate it for me. And I think, again, this is where it comes to having the world respond to what skills you use, not just through arbitrary dialogue from someone who's a happy passerby, for some reason knows your skill set, even though you've never fought before in battle, and he has no idea who you are probably, except for Dragonborn or something like that. But, you know, they respond because the world's watching you in a sense. You know, they're investigating your style. Like if you watch Arrow, for, you know, Detective Lance knows everything to do about how Green Arrow operates when it comes to crime scenes. Like, he knows when it's not the Green Arrow as opposed to when he was on the scene or something like that. And I want the world to kind of track that. You know, as a player, the world tracks you in that sense. So when you're doing something stereotypical, they're quicker to respond because they know those habits, as opposed to if I'm like playing and I do something that's a little bit out of my normal traditional style. Like I said, if I normally, like for me, I like to go in quiet, least amount of casualties. If no one ever sees me, perfect, I'm gone. But let's say today I broke some windows and did something like that, then they're like, oh, there could be someone new, we don't know. So they react a bit differently, as if they're more confused than they are than knowing who is there automatically. You know, they less, more or less, typically they think it's someone else as opposed to you, even though you're the only, you know, acting, whatever. But if you added more thieves, let's say if you were one amongst the others trying to make it out, particularly in this world, then you could probably, well, if you knew, let's say the other characters, you know, the co-characters in this game had their tradition and you mimic one of them, then the bounty instead of goes towards them instead of you, per se, something like that. But more or less, you master, you know, a set of skills in the game, as well as how to use them on the outside as a player, so that you are a better player, well-rounded than just the normal RPG. My character is stacked, and I just go hacking and slashing because he's so overpowered or whatnot. But you actually have to put in some effort as far as how you actually play with those skill sets you had your character develop.
So
Wow.
The skills
That was
grow
in-depth.
organically?
What was that?
The skills grow organically, or is there a predetermined skill set that exists?
For this one, I would say I would probably stick to where you have, like I said, judging from the class base, they're like those, you kind of fall into those three categories of the rogue, the thief, the warrior, and then the mage. Or in this case, it would be the tech guy, just the all-out brute, the thug in this case, or the thief, you know, the actual footpad, the silent one. And you know, you can mix kind of all three, of course, but within each one of those branches, you have the designated skills that go with them. Like the tech, the gadgetry guy, he's got all different types of gadgets, some that neutralize people, some that unlock doors, things that do things from remote distances, stuff like that, you know, different ways to incapacitate guardsmen or civilians or whatnot, depending on what you're doing. And then of course the thief, he's got his traditional lockpick. You know, he's got his arrows. In my case, I like trick arrows. I like to do just random stuff like, you know, the punching glove one for those who like Green Arrow. Just stuff like that. I wouldn't have a punching glove, you know, arrow, but in that sense, just arrows that do different types of things, and that sort. And then, of course, with the brute force, he's got his knives, his longer blades, his hand-to-hand. I would like to see hand-to-hand and first-person done, and RPG to be done really well. It'd be kind of cool to actually have some martial arts moves. Kind of like, I think Mirror's Edge does it pretty good, actually, in a sense, although they're minimalist in their hand-to-hand, but they have a pretty good template, I'd say, or beginning touches on how to do that. But it'd be like that. There would be those three outstanding classes, but you can pick and choose and make your playstyle depending on such, or you can specialize and hone those skills to their max and then specialize that class itself, you know. But the upside to not specializing in one class would be being able to have the perks of some of the other classes. Of course.
Well, my question was more geared towards the actual, like, specific skills. Would they have a set linear path? So, for example, if you had a skill with the thief that, like, you had a throwing knife skill, would there be a predetermined level 2, level 3, level 4 set of that throwing knife skill, or would it just grow organically based on the amount that you had leveled into that skill or honed?
I feel like it would be, I would want to do it to where it's like it kind of does a little bit of both. You know, it would within each, I want to say, milestone you get using that, because like I said, I prefer when you level up that you drop, you know, everything you do has an experience value to it. So once you level up or whatnot, then you disperse your amount of points where you allocate them where you want them to go. But I feel like with each one, because if you maximize a skill, then that should come with some kind of cool addition onto it.
Do you have a
there should be
sleeping
something
skill?
awesome to it. So
I think she's falling asleep.
Sorry. No, well, yes and no, but he said everything you do has EXP, and the first thing I thought of was Rune Factory, because I swear to God, you have a skill for sleeping.
Wow.
You have a skill for walking. You have a skill for eating.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go.
Thank you, Darkovika.
You getting Monica at midnight right now.
Monica
Oh,
at midnight.
Yep.
That's
Also known as
Um,
Madam.
Madam?
Monica at midnight is a joke that Peter and Brent coined because I was continuously asking for help last quarter, and Brent stayed up with me until 4 a.m. and it does turn out that after midnight I don't make much sense.
I've heard this story as well. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
So
she's
Monica at midnight is a thing. Yesterday's video, I uploaded a video yesterday of me. Yeah, at 3 a.m. The whole thing's in chipmunk because I was like, that is rude, sir. It was pretty good.
She doesn't need to get drunk as long as it's midnight.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think you
Apparently someone's... Oh,
was-
you go ahead. Yeah, I interrupted Kevin. Mercenary, please continue about everything gets you EXP was the last thing you said.
Yeah, everything had an XP value, everything you
Yeah.
do. But in short, I would take a little bit of both that you were, commenting on there, Peter, and it would be, or Element, and it would be, basically at a certain milestone, the throwing skill would be, instead of I can throw one at a time, I can throw two at a time, hit 2 targets or something like that. So I would like to do like where every milestone that you get in that, you would be able to do something like that. Yeah, a little extra addition to it.
Interesting. Well, I have to say that I was, I wanted to rein it in a little bit more when it came to this. I was expecting more skill-based design discussion, but you kind of went into level design as well, and I just wanted you to kind of...
It was one giant adventure with this whole project.
Yeah. I was just wondering how you would approach skill design in an RPG. I didn't think you were gonna lay out a steampunk type of RPG
Universe.
world.
I see what
reactionary
you
NPCs and changing level designs.
Well, because I was sitting there thinking about how to honestly attack skills, and for me, I would have to sit there if someone said, "Hey, we need an entirely new type of skill set system," it would be I would imagine being a little bit difficult if they were looking at something that wasn't like GURPS or like special, and they're looking for something that was like new to the game industry, because there are so many types of skill systems to where it's dropping XP points, or is it they level up organically by you using them, because Sims the series, the Sims did the same thing. They had it to where you can grind a skill, and they changed it to where if you used it, then it would level up organically. If you fished a lot, then your character would he's
Yep.
like getting good at fishing. So you never knew all the skills out there unless you looked up online. But by just
Or
playing,
unless you
you
got
found
the
out how to
skill,
do
yeah.
certain things. Yeah, you would just find out. And I mean, for an RPG, I think it would be kind of cool to kind of do it to where you don't know all the skills. And then as you use certain things, as you play, obviously you find out that this can be used as a weapon, and you'd be like, oh, well, how can I use this weapon? And you find out that it's a throwing knife, not just a, regular butter knife or something like that. And then you start using that skill, and you know what I mean. But just for example, and you could do that. But I honestly, for most RPGs, those typically the systems that are in place work, and I don't see the need to change them. So I kind of went to where I feel like most of the time we react to the skills given to us, and it'd be cool to see the game react to the skills we choose to use, instead of just having it to where maybe someone comments on my skills, or like in Skyrim where someone walks up and if you're good at using distraction magic, like, hey, duel me or teach me something, which is cool. But I feel like when someone boasts about your skill set and they're like, the game changed the way you play, it should really reflect that in the main core aspect of the game and not just on the side. But
right.
again, I know you're looking for design specifically, so it was a little
excited.
Meh.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of what I mean by skill design in a more dollar store fashion, since we're running out of time, or have run out of time.
Yeah.
So, like, what I was...
is falling asleep.
What I was thinking about skill design, I'll give you an example of what I thought of, which is basically an augmenting system where you would have a skill set based on the type of weapon you chose, and those skills would react differently depending on what part of your character you chose to skill up. So, for example, if you chose to put more emphasis on agility versus strength, then your skills with that particular weapon change in style. Now, you're not necessarily leveling up the skill, you're not necessarily putting points in skills, you're basically putting points in attributes on your character which will augment how the skills play out. So if you have 10 agility and you have a skill with a one-handed sword where you just kind of slash to the side, say you grow to 20 agility, then you slash to the side twice. If you go to 100 agility, it turns into a spinning slice. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of like skill design that I wanted to hear from you in terms of that particular concept. So next time,
I think he covered that and more.
I mean, like, in short, I guess if you meant it that way, then the skill would be, you would have, as a thief in this world, you'd have, weapons to choose from, kind of like how ESO starts out, where you pick up the weapon, they give you like all the scattered stuff, you're like, what do you want to use? This would kind of be, like after you come out of the basic tutorial, however that may look for this game, it would be, you could pick up a gadget, you could pick up your bow and do your first little small quest. And if you like changing, those develop basically as a player, you get better at using a bow. And like I said, you have the arching overall, like your agility, your speed, your strength, and all that, and how much you carry, blah, blah, blah. And those would affect, obviously, like as a modifier onto the skill sets. You've got your attributes and your skill sets. So it would be your attributes affect your skill sets. And if I'm really agile, I can parkour, hit a front flip, and hit my target with my bow if I wanted to. Would be, I guess, what kind of on that track you're looking for. That's how I would design skills, to where your attributes of your character are affecting the type of skill, the way your skills develop. So like I said, so if you got a little bit like, let's say if there's finesse or your agility as a thief, then I like said I can run really quickly, get in and out, and then I said hit like a really cool backflip off of a balcony and throw 3 knives in 2 different directions, and bam, hit a front tuck roll and run out the door, kind of thing. And that's really complex for a game, but yeah, as a skill, I would do it that way, particularly for this particular one speaking. Yeah.
Cool. A lot of great high concepts came from all of these game jam ideas.
Yeah, seriously, that's rock and roll.
So I guess we'll for future reference try to rein it in a little bit and kind of be more specific in terms of what we
timers.
Yeah, we'll have timers too then, if that's the case. But I guess that will wrap it up for this week's episode.
Yeah, well, like a burrito.
What do you even? You don't even go here.
Burrito?
Do you even burrito?
I burrito. Do you burrito?
I burrito
Do you even
while
wrap it
looking
up?
at pockets.
I eat a burrito.
All right, guys. Closing remarks. Closing remarks.
I like you guys. You're fun.
See?
Oh, thanks, Monica. We enjoy you too. Or I do. I don't know about that guy. He just likes your pockets.
That should imply that I enjoy a certain extent of her, okay?
He likes burritos too.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm not okay. Too many jokes can come from that. I'm not gonna go into that. Let's wrap it up, guys. Stop before we get started. Don't do it.
So in closing, go for it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this fantastic podcast. It is brought to you by burritos. Just all of them. I love you all so very much. And say thank you to Elements and Mercenary for coming on once again. Everybody say thank you.
Wow.
And I will see you guys next time. Ta-ta.
You guys have just bore witness to Monica at midnight.
Monica at midnight.
Yeah.
Monica at burritos.
Bye, guys.
Okay.